and things like that. I don't know how good Hexdrinker is. I haven't seen it played a whole lot, but I'm very skeptical.
I share some of that skepticism, and I think the players playing it feel a little skeptical as well. They're not going hard. You don't see 4 copies of Hexdrinker, only 1 copy in Tumavitch's deck. But as you mentioned, you just kind of want a few more 1-drops. Hexdrinker ready to suit the bill. Nimble Mongoose, not a real card anymore that humans can actually play in Legacy, so that's gone.
I did see a list with some Nimble Mongoose.
Really?
But again, the Hexdrinker starts with 2 power and threatens to get much bigger from there. The Nimble Mongoose just starts smaller, and it just takes a little bit too long to get online.
Yeah. I agree with you. Hexdrinker getting the beatdown work done thus far. Here's Dread Horde Arcanist. That's a threat I believe in, 100%.
Sure. And that's one that you need to answer.
Yes.
The Hexdrinker, you can wait till your opponent starts investing a bunch of mana into that thing.
I think Rosum agrees here. He's going to attempt a Fatal Push. Tumavitch ready with Force of Will. Rosum, Force of Will's back. And that is going to kill the Dread Horde Arcanist.
A lot of resources there from both sides.
Yeah, but I think this left Rosum in a good spot. Let's see what he can put together here. Step 1, Ponder.
Yeah, if you're on the 4-color control side, you just don't want the game to develop too quickly.
Step 2 is Renin 6.
You want it slow enough to where you can play around days every time, and you can sculpt your hand and find the right answer for their threats.
Tumavitch was ready with Spell Snare on that Renin 6. I like the setup, but Rosum unable to seal the deal, and that means this Hexdrinker going to start leveling up. Up to 4 counters now. Hexdrinker rapidly becoming a threat.
You know what, Brian? I'm a believer.
Okay, you're on board?
I'm back in.
That's all it took. Hexdrinker leveling up 1 time, and now Craig is on board.
Let's dial up that Hexdrinker.
Yeah, why don't we get that? Oh, wait, you can't do that on the time-shifted match.
Oh, we're time-shifted.
Yep, we are time-shifted. We'll talk more about Hexdrinker in the future. That's fine. We'll get another chance. Most of these teamer lists playing a copy. I'm sure this is not the last time the Snake will be on the battlefield. So Rosum, without Astrolabe this game, forced to get the full rainbow of these dual lands. Going to go ahead and try and jam a Jace here. No good.
And he's going to need a Liliana's Triumph real bad.
Well, here's Snapcaster Mage looking for that last out for the mini Progenitus and is unable to find it. That is going to do it here in game 1. Whew. What do you think about Hexdrinker as a card? Craig, you kind of into that one? Or?
Yeah, I don't want to be too results-oriented. I think we're looking at a best-case scenario in this game.
I agree with you.
Jonathan only had 1 piece of interaction for creatures in that game. It was the Fatal Push.
Yep.
He used it on a different creature, and then the Hexdrinker was able to just do its thing, sit around for as long as possible, get as big as possible.
Yeah, had that Renin 6 resolved, it would have looked a little silly. You generally, right now, don't want to play creatures that can be picked off by Renin 6, but it didn't. And Hexdrinker able to carry the day, so we're going to head to a game 2 here. We can talk a little bit about the sideboards. We'll just rip through them real quick here. Over on the Teamer Delver side, Tumavitch packing that typical 1-of sideboard. Anything you want to do on Tumavitch's side to improve this match? I'm assuming it's just the typical control-oriented stuff. Blasts, some more Planeswalker threats.
Yeah, so it's all the efficient answers that I expect us to see. The Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, the Spell Pierces, things like that. Lightning Bolt isn't particularly good in this matchup, so I can see those getting sided out, and maybe he wants the extra force of negation as well.
That makes sense to me. Meanwhile, over on Rosum's side, I think one of the big gets we're looking at in this matchup is probably Leah Vold. You want to shut off all the brainstorming capability from your opponent. Maybe you can mess around with the blast effects, but not huge changes going to happen here between either deck.
No, I don't expect big transformations. So much of your sideboards need to be just dedicated to other strategies that it doesn't leave you tons of wiggle room for these matchups.
Players just doing a little bit of setup on these first couple turns. Both players pondering. Rosum finding some basics. Baleful Strix. Tumavitch says no. Met with the daze. Agree with that. Baleful Strix problematic for these Delver lists.
It is, but if you're on Rosum's side of the board, I think that's still a win for you. Your opponent, turn 1 did not have a 1-drop, and then turn 2, they set themselves back to 1 by returning the land with the daze. It's almost like you got a time walk out of your Baleful Strix.
Yeah, doing something borderline proactive for a control deck in those first 2 turns, very meaningful. Another reason why Wrenn and 6 such a meaningful card. But Tumavitch making meaningful plays of his own. It's Tarmogoyf.
That Goyf is huge.
Yeah, and I think Rosum missed the 3rd land as well.
Yeah, he's all jammed up on mana. Oosh.
Second copy of Tarmogoyf is found. Rosum was ready with an Abrupt Decay. That leaves the first copy on the battlefield. Going to need some more answers. Here's a Tropical Island. Fatal Push for Tarmogoyf. Okay. We've dealt with the immediate threat on Rosum's side. What's the next wave from Tumavitch?
So I'm a little surprised that Rosum took the damage from the Goyf. It's possible he didn't want to tap out and leave himself very vulnerable to a Wrenn and 6, which we see here.
Sure.
But he was forced to use it anyway, and he just took a 5-shot to the face for his effort.
Yeah, maybe prioritizing being safe from Wrenn and 6, thinking that was the real damning threat here. Let's see. More lands off the top for Rosum. Have to be excited about that. Looks like Rosum just going to pass the turn back here. No plays. Wrenn and 6 remains on the battlefield for Tumavitch, generating card advantage. That's a reasonable thing for a 2-mana Planeswalker to do.
It is, but it's not the best possible scenario. Like I said, these 4-color control decks get to play so many basics. And Matt Tumavitch would love to just be wastelanding every single turn. But he can't because of all the basic snowlands on the other side of the board.
Another Astrolabe from Rosum. 3rd Astrolabe from Rosum. Astrolabe flooded.
Not possible.
Kind of right. Not that much of a cost. Perfect mana now. That Wrenn and 6, though, numbers getting high. And here's a true name Nemesis attempt from Matt Tumavitch. Looks like we have a Blast at the ready. Pyroblast going to take that threat out.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised Matt doesn't have some sort of interaction just because he has so many cards in his hand.
All right, well, here's a Dreadhorde Arcanist. Solving some of the mystery. Blue Elemental Blast on Wrenn and 6, very timely.
Hydroblast, all the blasts.
On Arcanist. Well, we mentioned Blast, a good feature here for Rosum in post-board games. Oh, but here's a big threat. Gonna wish you had a Pyroblast for that. It's Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah, Jace is still just like the Mac Daddy of Planeswalkers.
Gets the job done.
And the 4-color control deck just has problems with these very sticky permanents where it doesn't have tons of answers to them. And it depends on buying enough time, which Rosum's been able to do so far, but it's possible that time's going to run out real quick with Jace just providing so much card advantage to Tumavitch.
Yeah, it just feels like Rosum's battlefield hasn't really developed. Despite the time he's been able to buy, I don't feel like he's advancing the game in any meaningful way. Here's a start, Wrenn and 6. Some source of persistent advantage, a possible answer for that Delver of Secrets. Could be a big get for Rosum here.
Yeah, I'm sure Rosum really wants to get a land back, but I think you start with the Delver and you see if your Wrenn and 6 survives after that.
I agree. And Tumavitch's hand just juiced right now. Lightning Bolt to answer Wrenn and 6. Has a Hex Drinker ready to get big. Spell Pierce at the ready to interact with whatever Rosum wants to do.
Yeah, and that Spell Pierce is very good when your opponent's all jammed up on mana.
Yeah, and all the mana in the world for Tumavitch. I think this is going to be a big turn. Preordain. Let's just take a peek, see what's up. Force of Will, one of the top cards. A little bit more protection. Time for Hex Drinker, and time for Delver of Secrets. One counter on that Hex Drinker, pass the turn back to Rosum. Here's a Snapcaster Mage. Looks like Tumavitch was thinking about whether to force, is going to let it resolve, instead just Spell Piercing the Blast.
Yeah, you know your Spell Pierce is going to be good, so Oh, gee, yeah.
That's going to get a handshake. I agree. What is Rosum supposed to do from that point? So many
permanent
sticky threats.
Yeah.
Hexdrinker about to go mini Progenitus mode on you. Jace the Mind Sculptor on the battlefield. You're just buried in that spot and impossible to claw out of that situation.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the aggressive deck was kind of doing what the 4-color control deck wanted to be doing, where he was accumulating tons of card advantage. He got the Ren and 6 down early, got tons of extra cards, then it got killed, then he got Jace onto the board, tons of extra cards again, and really that's what the other side of the board wants to be doing.
It's always been the hallmarks of these Delver decks to be able to just switch very effectively to that quasi-control plan, just stepping back a little from that aggression and finding ways to interact and generate card advantage. I love having those dual plans, and we saw it executed perfection right there. Why don't we talk about some Throne of Eldraine?
I love Throne of Eldraine.
It's been a minute since we were able to talk about a preview
Throne
card.
of Eldraine.
Of course, you want to get your pre-orders in today, head over to go.starcitygames.com/ELD. We'll get those shipped out to you Friday, October 4th. And we're going to talk about a big, expensive effect right now, Craig. One that's pretty exciting, though. It's the Magic Mirror.